All right, so again, welcome to everyone. We're gonna, yeah, you're in. I can see you, Samsung. I don't know. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can respond to their chat.
It might have been Gina. Someone responded and said to me and said they were going to be on their cell.
In her car.
Yeah.
Oh,
She might not have unmuted herself. Let me see if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it for nope, I don't think I'm allowed to. Not sure. Oh, there she is. I can see her. I was trying to put Gina, can you hear yet? I don't think she can. All right, I'm sorry, I'm trying to be the IT person whenever I'm really not an IT person. I don't know how to help Gina. Oh, she jumped up. No, maybe. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna keep rolling because it's being recorded, so she can always respond to or be able to hear the recording afterwards if we have to. So again, welcome to a discussion here. We sent Jim sent out a proposal, and yesterday I put that into agenda form and sent that out late last night. And I thought we'd start with the welcome and introductions. You know, I am Lori Baker, President and CEO at AID, and with me I have
Courtney Littlejohn. I'm the Vice President of Equity and Inclusion, which includes oversight of the Community-Based Services Program and employment.
All right, Stephanie.
Stephanie, you're muted.
Yeah,
all right. I was muted. Hello, I am Stephanie Norwood, Vice President of Intellectual and Developmental Disability Services. So I oversee our residential services, our clinical services, our home-based services, and our admissions department for DD.
And Raj?
Hello, yeah. I'm Raj Mandrel. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at AID. So HR, IT, billing, health services, psychiatry, they fall directly under me.
All right, Jim?
Yeah, most of you know me, Jim Gould, serve on the board for a number of years, and have a son receiving both day and residential services.
Kathy?
In the Elgin area. So, you know, these concerns, Lori, are broader than just the Yorkville parent group. I think they're agency-wide. So we represent, me and Sue, my son's mother, represent sort of the north end of the service area. So
I didn't know what to call it, so I just
yeah,
made something up. Kathy? Kathy, you're muted.
Kathy Hoyta, son Matthew is at Scylla in Yorkville, is where he's supposed to be. Literally, he's right around the corner because of staffing issues. And he's been there since 2018. Anyway, we need help.
Jean?
Jean Isabel, I'm Mark's mom, and he's also at Scylla in Yorkville and goes to the day program at Bridge.
All right. Georgina, are you able to unmute?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Great. I will take this awful psychedelic picture off after you see me. My son Christian is at Winterberry here in Yorkville. Thank
thanks,
you.
Georgie. Susan?
Oh, dear. Hi, yes, as Jim said, I am Jim's ex-wife, and we have a son who is at a Scylla in Elgin, and he is also right here because he just had dental work done. Yes, and he's showing me his mouth right now. So, yes, we apparently are representing the Elgin end.
All right, Julie?
This is Julie of Davin DeGus in Yorkville at Winterberry House.
Thank you. And I don't know if Gina's able to,
She texted and said she could hear us.
I can,
There she goes.
can you hear me now?
yes, we can.
Okay, well, I'm coming home from Iowa, so I keep hitting, I'm in the middle of cornfields, so I keep hitting all sorts of breakups here, so
No reception.
I'll try to,
Well, we'll keep,
yep, I'm on data, but it's not real good.
all right, well, we'll keep letting you in if you get kicked off, right? So we'll let you back in anytime you come.
Okay. And my daughter is in a Scylla in Aurora.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. We are gonna go through our agenda. I'm not gonna bring up the agenda, but we started out with welcome and introductions, and our next portion I have on is general response and a framing of the discussion. I just want to talk just a couple minutes about the reality of the world that we live in today, which is much different than our pre-COVID world. So in the world that we live in, the unemployment rate in Illinois is 4%, which is incredibly low in the United States. Across the board, it's 3.5%. So these kinds of staffing issues and other challenges that we are dealing with are not unique to AID or anything that we are doing wrong or incorrectly. And they just have to do with the world and the way that it looks now. There are 1.7 jobs for every one person looking for employment right now. Is just a quick statistic that I picked up online. And so Raj is going to talk in a little bit, about some of the things that, we have done and continue to do and continue to change, and what the reality in hiring has been across the board. But that is an issue that we share with all people in our industry, and really all people in any kind of business across the board. Everyone that I talk to, no matter what industry that they are in, is having problems not only hiring, but hiring people with quality skills and the desire and ability to work. So we are all facing those challenges. One of the things that I think sometimes it is difficult or isn't at the front of mind of each individual family as they are thinking about their loved one is that we are a business across the board, and many of our decisions are based on trying to contain costs and support the people that we employ and the people that we serve. So for example, Courtney's going to talk in a minute about give us a food delivery update. Part of that change happened during COVID when we could not have staff members and clients going individually to grocery stores because it wasn't safe. And that also then gave us the opportunity to try to put together a program that would help us to contain cost but also to ensure better nutrition and have some greater support of DSPs that have a lot of different types of work on their plate, right? And so getting supper on the table or getting breakfast on the table is one of those things that we're trying to, figure out more supports for people so that they can have more concentration on spending time with the people that we serve. Many of our DSPs and managers and directors and are in a very difficult space because they are trying to serve two masters. They are caught between family members and their supervisors, and they are supposed to do what their supervisor tells them to do, and are not able to change what location that they are in or where they need to fill in when there is a shortage, etc. But they often are trapped between family members who are asking for specific things and their actual supervisors, and that makes a lot of challenge for those individual people. It puts a lot of stress on them. And frankly, it leads to some people leaving or not wanting to work in specific locations where there is less understanding and more demand from family members and maybe more challenging behavior from the people that we support. Those are just like the tidbits of top level stuff that I want us to keep in mind as we move forward. And now I'm going to trade spots with Courtney so you can see her directly. And we're going to go into a food delivery update about how we are getting food to Scylla's right now.
Hey, hello again, everyone. So I wanted to let you know about our process with the food delivery. And this process actually happens in two steps that happen pretty parallel. So the first step is our warehouse, our AID warehouse, where we store our food. That consists of what we want to call our core products. So, our nutrition, just kind of core pantry basics of products that we store in the warehouse. And so what the homes do, the staff will order weekly, and then we pull those and we fill those orders, and then we deliver them. We deliver their groceries to their homes. The second part that's also happening at the same time is to capture anything outside of what is not offered in the warehouse. So those items that allow for meeting the needs and specialized diets, those things like that. It also allows for opportunity for the staff to work with clients with meal planning and choice. And so that process, they are ordering that food directly from nearby grocers. So that could be your Meijer, your Aldi, your Walmart, whatever is logistically near the homes. And so when they order that food is then picked up by the staff. So the reason why we did that, we split it. At one point in time, we did have all of it, and that just became operationally not feasible to really meet the needs 100% because we were handling tons of food. And so also it kind of took away that element of choice and really trying to honor everyone's, specific diets. That just became an operational, we weren't providing a good service, right, to the homes. And so that's when we collectively made the decision, let's split that in half. Let's provide kind of your basics foods, and all the food that we have in our warehouse has been approved by our dietitian. And then let's put that choice and that autonomy back into the homes and let them, because they know the diets very well, very well. Clients are able to participate in and so that part is what they order directly from the store that does not pass through at all through the warehouse. So that's really kind of high level overview of that process. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Courtney. Again, I will say you all have seen the increase to your grocery costs. I am sure with inflation, we do not receive any increased amounts for food for people based on what the current market will bear, right? And how much things cost. And you will remember that there were increased food stamp amounts during COVID, and those amounts have now gone away. And so we're back to even less money than we were working with in the first place. So again, there's a balance between business and care, right? You know, and service, and that, you know, the food distribution system has been part of that. As with anything, as with any change that you institute, people don't like it because they don't like change. And there are bumps, you know, that you go through. And so just like Courtney said, you know, we are not even still in a process that is dead set. This is the only thing we're doing, right? We course correct, look at what's happening, what is working, and are able to then continue to try to make improvements in order to meet the needs of the people that we serve in the most cost-effective manner possible. And that's always been the you know, goal of the food delivery program. I'm going to go
Lori,
on. Yes.
Lori, if specific parents, not just in this group, but across the agency, had concerns about food delivery at their particular child's location, who would they contact? Would it be Courtney or is it someone else?
It'd be Courtney.
Okay, all right.
Are each individual house placing the orders, or is there somebody, one person placing the orders for all the houses of a certain area?
Each individual house places their order. So the staff working in the house are tasked with meal planning. That's supposed to be based on client preference, and then they submit a weekly meal plan and a grocery list to their manager. And that manager is the one that actually puts the order in. So there's built-in oversight into the system.
Okay.
I don't, if I'm getting into the weeds, just say so. And I understand that. I'm curious because where of those two divisions would say things like frozen vegetables, where would they come into play? Would that be a standard stock, or would that be a local order?
Yeah, so good question. So frozen vegetables is something that is standard. Again, it's limited. So we have mixed, you know, the mixed vegetables, green beans, and peas. So we really try to streamline that. Yes. So anything outside of that, the home's order.
Okay, all right. And you said that the orders are based on client preference, and this is just, I'm sure it's an ongoing, I get concerned sometimes because I won't hear about much vegetable being offered in a meal. You know, a lot of carbs, and we probably all gone through this. So I guess I don't know if there's a good answer. You said the DSPs order based on client preference, and I get that. I'm concerned about, you know, some of the clients would prefer nothing but chicken nuggets and pizza. And, you know, how can that be handled? And what if a DSP maybe is not super literate in varieties of food? I don't know if they're cooking based on what they have, or, you know, does that make any sense? Does my question make any sense?
You know,
I'm just concerned about a lack of balance sometimes in what I hear about.
Well, you know, and we have a wide variety of skill levels in terms of cooking and nutrition skills. And so one of the things that we have started, and the training is actually being offered, not offered, required, this
Okay.
month for all DSPs, is a basic food and nutrition course. So everybody that's working in a home will get that this month. And then starting in September, our food service DSP will be doing small hands-on classes where the folks that we identify that need more training will come into the kitchen at the Elgin Trading Center and do some hands-on training in meal preparation. Because yeah, you have to remember that to be a DSP requires you know, a clean record and a GED. So we do have some folks that you know, have never made anything beyond chicken nuggets for themselves.
Mhm.
So that is an area of training, and that is something that they've been prepping to start these classes for a while, and we start them up next month.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
dear.
Stephanie, where is the role of the dietitian in all this?
she's extremely, I'm sorry, Stephanie. I know, Jim, you
That's
directed
okay,
that
go
to
ahead.
Stephanie, so I'm sorry. But Christine is very active in this process. She's been active with Michael, who manages the inventory in the warehouse. Like I said, all of that inventory was approved by Christine, along with collaboration with Stephanie and myself, of course. The food course that's going to be offered, the one this month in August, and then the hands-on cooking class that Stephanie just mentioned is in September. Christine provided oversight with the writing of that curriculum. She's also going to be present for most of the trainings as well. So at the top half of that hands-on training course, they're going to revisit the food handling that they learned about here in August. So that is her piece, and then they'll move into the actual hands-on cooking. So she's been extremely active in this whole process.
That's a really good explanation. Thank you.
And
no
there,
problem.
and there's even more than that, you know, I mean, Christine is engaged with everybody who has a special diet, which is more than 3/4 of the people that we support in residential. And we have all kinds of menus and a variety of recipes that have been developed for each house. Unfortunately, you know, oftentimes if you have a skill level, right, that the person is uncomfortable, right, even with that more simple recipe, you know, that's why we're doing these other courses. And as I mentioned earlier, one of our goals that we've been working towards is ways to make the DSP job easier, you know, so that more people are interested and stay, right? And one of those things is potentially using our commercial kitchen to make meals, right, that might be delivered to some of our locations, or like they might be like a Hello Fresh box. We've tried that, or they might be a meal that you pop in the oven or that you put in the crock pot, right, that is already nutritious and meets the needs of that house, but makes it easier for the staff person to do. We are not quite there yet on that piece, but you know, we're rolling out this piece with the training on food service, because we realize there's all kinds of skill sets that would be great to have in every DSP, but every DSP doesn't, well, every person doesn't have them. I couldn't make a meal get all ready at the same time for 6 or 8 people myself, right? My mom could, but I could not. All right, move us along unless we have something really burning, because we got a lot of more things to talk about. So I'm going to start sharing my screen as Stephanie begins to talk about org chart and chain of command. And I'm going to show our very basic organizational chart here.
Yeah. So it's it looks a little more complicated than it actually is. Let me start with a little bit of background for those of you who have had loved ones with us for a long time. We used to have our QIDPs also act as managers for the SILAs. And what we found was that, you know, like the expression says, a jack of all trade is a master of none, right? And so we were having people being very overwhelmed and not doing great clinical work because, you know, health and safety is always has to be primary. And so we decided that what we needed to do, and it has worked very well, was to separate out the operations of the SILA from the clinical work. And so what we have is that each operations director is over between 8 and 10 homes, and they each have a manager that our goal is for each manager to carry no more than 4 homes. Right now, we don't quite have the manpower to make that happen, but we're working on it. And so for these 4 homes, the operations manager is responsible for the staffing. So they do the interviewing and the hiring of the DSPs, and you know, the onboarding. And then they are also responsible to make sure that each of the homes has the supplies that they need, that all of the safety checks have been done. And they are also responsible for transportation, particularly to client activities. And our managers are also the ones that are on call during the evenings and overnight. So if there is an emergency after 5 p.m., they are the ones that are going to take that call, arrange for whatever that client needs. So everybody living in a SILA has an ops manager, and they report to the director, who then reports to their AVP. And we have 2, you know, our residential program's big enough that we have 2 teams, the North and the South. And then the AVPs report directly to me. Now we also have our clinical branch. And so those are the QIDPs, which are our specialized case managers. So every client has a Q, and that Q is responsible to take the personal plan that their ISC creates for them and to write implementation strategies. They are responsible for training the DSPs on all of the strategies, so what every client needs. And they're the ones that are really responsible for that client's plan and everything connected to it. So your Q is the person that's going to be coordinating doctor's appointments, assisting with personal finances, so the money that belongs to the client, and then tracking their progress on their plan. Qs are responsible from 8 a.m. in the morning until 5 p.m. So if there's an emergency during that time for a client, their Q will be the primary responder. The Q is also the communication hub for the entire program. So they're the ones making sure that that the staff have the information they need, that the manager has the information they need. So an example of that would be the Q would be the one that would help somebody sign up for Fox Valley Special Rec or NISRA, and then would coordinate with the manager. The manager is the one who would make sure that that person has transportation to that activity. The Q also is the communication with the day program, with employment services, etc. So they're really kind of the hub for that person. And for you as family members and guardians, they are your primary contact. So they're the ones that they're pretty much your first phone call, and they will be the ones that are reaching out about anything to do with that individual's plan or life. And so each queue reports to a clinical manager. And again, we have 2 teams, North and South, and then that those managers report to a clinical director who reports to our AVP on the North team, Kim Lynch, who has led our clinical department since we have made this this split of clinical and operations. And like I said, we did it because we want the people that are in charge of the plan to be separate from the people that are in charge of staffing the home, because quite frankly, you can be in the middle of the best plan of your life. If you have a call off, you have to drop everything to arrange for coverage, because health and safety will always be primary. So I hope that helps. Are there any questions about that? So I see Kathy said we need names, and that's something that we want feedback from this group in terms of where we can, because we agree, and you know, and we would like to have some form of posting, but we're wondering where would that be for families to access it best. Lori, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, we want to be able to securely post this somewhere that we can always keep up to date, and that parents or families who have you know, read rights, you know, would be able to get to it, so that anytime, you know, there's a change, you would be able to see that, because it's very difficult to send out an email. We don't have a lot of parents' emails. We don't have we have mail, you know, every time you mail something, it costs a lot of money, and then it changes, you know, because if we've learned anything about staffing, right, and is that it never stays the same. So so we are always working on that. So the 2 things that I have thought of are, and again, I'm not a big IT person, and I don't know how this would work for people, was if we could create a private portion of our website, right, that you have to be, you know, somehow approved to log into, right, as a family member, where they could be posted, and then you would be able to click on, you know, the link for your home, excuse me, your home, where your loved one is at, right, to get the contact information for you know, each person and name for each position. Or right now, the Family Council Facebook group is a closed group that's, you know, invitation only, and I believe there's some capability to post documents within a Facebook group, you know, and we could potentially do it there, but we don't have very many members, you know, of our Family Council Facebook group. So, you know, what we're trying to do is make sure that all families have access to it, and are wondering what you think is the best, because frankly, it's been hard for us, because you all might be super involved, but then we have some people that are not super involved and don't share updated you know, email addresses or phone numbers or cell phone changes or other things, in other ways that we have tried to get information out to all family members.
Lori, there's a
Yeah,
few
Lori.
things in the chat, a
Okay,
few suggestions.
okay.
Yeah. It seems to me, Lori, there are 2 levels here. One is sort of this chart here. And my guess is that most of us as parents really want, when there's a change in the structure line that directly affects us, that we be notified through that person. Like if I remember right, when Patty Finner became the residential director in the Elgin area, she sent out an email and said, "I'm not David's Q anymore. Here's the new shift as it relates to you and Sue and David." That is really helpful. That should come directly from the people when a change is made. But I think that's different from a full organizational chart, which for my money would be nice to be able to access online in the ways we've talked about. But I think the direct communication when there's a change in the reporting structure relative to your loved one.
And just to speak to something that that Jean posted, we do plan to, once we know where we are posting, that we will post the information by house so that you don't have to wade through a bunch of other names and numbers to get to who applies to your person.
Yeah, and again, we could send out an email. We have had lots and lots and lots of issues with emails changing, for parents. So it becomes difficult to try to track down. So, we can start that way. And as you talk to other parents like that are involved in your home and in other, I see you, Julie, I'll call on you a second. And you see other people that are out and about, like, reminding people to, update their information with their queue, right? Is about their parents or family's information or guardians' information as much as about the person's information, because we, again, have limited staff to chase down, did you get this email or not, with the updated information. And so we have struggled. And I know that we have had many conversations since I have been here about trying to get information, particularly like even during COVID, right? That was a perfect thing. And it was very difficult to get, information out to the entire group of people, because there are many people that are not as involved as this group that is on this call. Julie?
This is from another organization, but depending on who you are, you have different access further through the website. So it might be on your website, it might be for parents only. And then based upon your, then you might have to click into something to find out information. Like I would only have access to my son's home.
Right.
And if people don't use it, they don't use it. You'd have to sign up and you would have to know what emails were there. But that way I think it would help, because there would just be a one-stop update for the people that need to notify. And when a parent gets there, they get there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to see what IT can get set up in in our website and see how we can make that work. And one of the things that might be a way to kick this off and try to get people engaged in it, right, is that we'll have our summer newsletter going out sometime in the very beginning of September, after our ribbon cutting and open house on the 31st of August, because that's going to be the lead story on the newsletter. So we could have, something in that newsletter, right, about, hey, calling all family members, parents and family members, here's how you get connected, to receive outgoing information. So we will, I will follow up with IT, and Raj is actually responsible for IT. So he can help me make sure that we're talking to them about what we need to set up and get it ready. I think that we should be able to get it ready in time to be kind of sent out information within that summer newsletter. Does that work?
Let me mention one more thing that will be coming up, which would be very helpful in the future. We have an electronic health record, which is called CX360, And we are trying to get a client portal, which would be visible with information about the individuals, but it will only be open to family members if they're a guardian. So that's by law. So information about the staff would be available there as well. But that I think is about 6 months away.
Like I wanted to kind of add like a silly thing. It may seem it may seem silly to you. It's not silly to me, and I don't think for the other parents. But you know, we're told about new staff, for example, in the house, and we're like, okay, what was their name? I mean, we don't want to mispronounce their names, and sometimes we do that. We don't have like any idea. Like, I don't go over to my son's house during the week. I try to leave staff alone. I see him on the weekend, but you know, just some way to, you know, I would be happy to put up my picture so they could see me and, you know, that kind of stuff, and family pictures.
That was one of the suggestions, Julie, in the chat that I wrote down. So I'm not like ignoring people that are putting stuff in chat. I did write down the suggestions that are there. And I thought that was a good idea because you know, we do take a picture when people start at AID. So you know, we could look at how, you know, making that a part of this organizational chart for the you know, each home as well, as we are getting someplace to be the repository of secured information that you can access.
Right. I mean, and just one little thing. I mean, we're on we've hit the 5-year period at the beginning of June, and we're at about 50 staff members. And so, you know, I know you've already addressed that, and I don't have an issue specifically with that, but it's you know, I want to call them by the right name.
No, I get it. And here's something that we are just getting ready to kick off as well. So we have the same issue as staff members, is that we don't know other staff members, because you're going to see in Raj reports here, we have more than 640 positions. So there's no way that any of us can know everyone. And so we are going to kick off a large name tag requirement. It's a magnetized name tag with a person's preferred name on it, and it'll have the AID logo, so that it won't be a lanyard or anything that people could grab or could be of danger in a home, right? So that all people can wear them all the time, and we're going to expect people to wear them all the time, so that it does have a first name at least, and that's big enough, like they're not little tiny name tags, are kind of like the bigger square, because I'm old and I can't see, and I certainly can't see when somebody has like a dangling card on a lanyard, right? And I agree with you. I very much like to call people by their name and honor them as a person. And so we just actually sent out the email telling people today, telling people about this project that we're starting, asking them to go in and to our Paycom system and update their preferred name, so that we can get these first batches of name tags ordered. And our goal will be, they have until the 31st of August to update their preferred name. Then we will order in September the name tags and look at kicking off kind of the requirement. I'm not calling it a requirement. I'm calling it a name tag program. What did I say? Program. Yeah.
Initiative.
A name badge program is what I think I called it. And the goal is to, you know, start on October 1st with everybody having their name tags. Hopefully we'll, you know, be able to have them all come in, and then, you know, get them out to their various locations. So yeah, we're excited about that, and we feel like it'll be good for everybody. Because it is hard when you're seeing people, and people look different. They get new glasses, they get new hair, they get, you know, all kinds of things. So it's nice to have name tag.
I know. I showed up to Winterberry, and this lady answered the door, and I'm like, "Who are you?" It was you, Lori.
I know it was me.
It's like, I looked, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that was funny. It was fun to be able to do that because I knew you were coming over. So That was still a dinner night, so it was fun to open the door. I said, I'll open it whenever she rang the doorbell. Anyway, so that is organizational structure on the DD side, and we'll work on getting those pieces together in order to get ongoing information to people. Then I'm going to share really quickly. Hang on, I gotta share a different document. So this is is this big enough? Okay, so this is our basic executive leadership structure. So there were some questions about what the heck are associate vice presidents anyway. And again, Raj is going to tell us a bit more about our staff, but just as soon as I get done talking here. But we have grown exponentially, and we have to be able to manage, supervise, maintain, support, etc., and learn best practice, be involved in community events, go out and apply for funding, etc., across 7 different counties. So we began by creating associate vice president positions to answer to the vice presidents of our 2 largest programs, which were our behavioral health and IDD services. Both of those are big programs. So both of those vice presidents have 2 associate vice presidents who split up the community county regions that we work within. As we began to roll those associate vice president positions out, therefore they were for a variety of different things, being able to have a better level of support for the programs across 7 different counties. They were to be able to have retention of good staff who had nowhere else to go beyond directorship, and people who have been in vice president positions for years. And though we are getting close and on a couple of people, didn't really have a lot of movement within that upper vice president level. We do have a couple of vice presidents that will be probably retiring in the next 3 to 10 years. And so we wanted to be able to begin to develop staff for that higher level of leadership. And we just frankly needed the support for the vice presidents and for myself, because we can't be everywhere all at one time across 7 different counties. And it's very important that we continue to grow our partnerships and our collaborations with the different community areas that we are in. And you can't do that unless you're meeting and going to community events, asking for funding in communities, going to local elected, township meetings and county board meetings, and frankly going to Springfield to advocate, etc., right? Without having a deeper level of executive leadership. So as we instituted the first 2 areas, which were behavioral health and IDD services, we quickly saw that this was a good move and was really assisting those vice presidents and were allowing us to kind of do some introspection and changes and those kind of things. So then across the next few months, we have added an associate vice president underneath each vice president. So each area of what was once our executive leadership team, which is VP of IDD Services, of Equity and Inclusion, our Chief Financial Officer, our Chief Operating Officer, our VP of Crisis and Outreach, and our VP of Behavioral Health Services. Each one of those people outside of IDD and BH then has one associate vice president underneath them, again, for the same purposes. This also allows us We meet bi-monthly together as an executive leadership team because I think it's important that we break down silos and don't have internal barriers to people accessing services, because there are many people on the IDD side that need behavioral health services or might be in a crisis or need employment services or coming to CDS, et cetera, right? Sometimes people still sometimes say us and them, right? Even though we're the same organization. So that is the pieces that we have going on here. I mean, I can put names out if you want. You know, I don't know that you have a lot of reason to, you know, contact the Associate Vice President of Billing and IT or, you know, some of those things, but we can, you know, have that as part of, you know, the chain of command, right? How you go up if you have a issue that isn't addressed, you know, at the managerial level, or director level, AVP level, VP, and on up to me. I think I've always had a very open door policy and spoken to many of you many times individually and collectively, you know, so we always have the willingness to do that. So we'll add this organizational structure doc inside whatever system we set up for secured information access, right?
Laurie, I did want to mention, I think the VP and the leadership structure is on the website and also in the annual reports with the names and
Pictures.
pictures.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. That is correct. So if you go to our website and you click on this year's annual report, actually fiscal year 22's annual report, you will see the pictures and of all of the folks, but we will also put it out there. Thanks, Raj. Now I'm going to throw it over to Raj, who, as he mentioned earlier, is responsible for human resources. And he's going to talk about staff hiring, etc. And I'm going to pull up his PowerPoint and run it.
This is a later slide.
Yes,
Okay.
I know. Thank you.
Okay, so again, Raj Mandal, I'm the Chief Operating Officer, have been with AID for 32 years. And the key thing that I wanted to mention is that Laurie just mentioned to me this yesterday, can you join? So I quickly put this. And thanks, Jim, you are part of the HR board committee, and this report that we sent out to the board on an annual basis is what has helped me to pull this together within a couple of hours. So I'm just going to highlight in a bigger term, that report that actually presented was 15 pages. So for FY24, we have budgeted 662 FTE, which is approximately 640 positions. Now, you'll wonder why the FTE is more than the position, is because AID has something called the house manager model, in which staff are working 68 hours a week, and that translates to more than one FTE. But position-wise, it's about close to 640. Now, among the 640, the majority of the positions are in the IDDD residential program, so 291. And I pulled out a report today to see that out of the 291, 245 are DSP positions. In the community day program, we have 74, and the majority of them, 55, are DSP positions. Now, I'm lumping all the DSP positions, but there is a career ladders there. DSP shift models, DSP house manager, DSP rehab, DSP lead. So I put all the DSP positions together. On the admission side, in the home-based program, we have 10. Community employment program under Courtney, that's 19. And in the behavioral health side, in the residential program, both supervised and supported, it's 99. Outpatient is 68. And the crisis service program, which has really increased over the last 1.5 years, that has gone up, I think, from about 30 to 60 now, with the mobile crisis response team, crisis line, street outreach, and so forth. and administration program support are 41. We have kept this data over the last 18 years that I've been in this particular position. Total number of positions that are open as of June 30th is 93. So I do this for the HR board committee and to the board, this report. But this time I said, let me check into the different reports of what vacancy rates used to be. So pre-COVID, 2019 and before, this was 5 to 8%. And I still remember when it was 8 and we had about 30 openings, I used to be on the top to, why is it still 30 openings? I mean, we want to reduce it down to, my thing was less than 10. But sometimes we used to come to about 15, 20, and I used to get stressed. But during COVID, just like everybody else, this went up to about 18 to 22%. And that equated to 146 positions at AID that were open. Since January 2023, that has now ranged somewhere between 14 to 15%. If you see the last bullet, we have done an anchor survey for 2023. They have not sent the report. We have also done NCI, National Core Indicators survey, but we have not got that report as yet. I'm very interested in seeing where that stands. But I did pick up something from June 2022, which I think is quite old. It's 25% DSP vacancy rate. Without naming an agency, I just...
And Raj, that's across Illinois?
This is an Illinois number. Yeah, across Illinois. But again, it's more than a year old. So the direct support is the biggest area, both in the IDDD side as well as the MHP positions, which are on the behavioral health side. The second group is the professional, which includes case manager, QIDP, mental health professionals, qualified mental health professionals, which master's level. Support to management is 0, but I think right now we have 1 or 2 openings in the management area.
Well, and Raj, that when you
Yes.
say management, we're not talking about the operations managers. Those are lumped in with the professional staff, correct?
No, anybody who has a exempt status of manager, director, and what do you call VP, AVP, that is all in
Okay.
management. Yeah.
Okay, in that case, yes, I have 3 manager openings currently in my program.
Okay, yeah. 3 plus there is another one, so there's 4 right now.
This is from June 30th.
Yeah, this is June 30th.
Yeah.
In the next slide, we looked at the turnover rate. Number of people who left AID in 2023, July 1st till June 30th was 119. Pre-COVID, the turnover rate was somewhere between 18 to 20%. During COVID, it went up to 21 to 24%. And as of June 30th, it is 15.5%. This is one area that people don't like to believe it, even within the agency, but we have done it much better than previous years. And I'm going to talk about what could be some reasons why this turnover rate has been lower. Now, if you look at the last 2 bullets, the National Core Indicator report from 2020, that's the last one that they put out, was 43.6%. Jim, you may recall we used Solana, which is later called Sendata, and that they did it in 2019, and they had quoted 52%. At that time, we used to range close to 20%. But They Deserve More campaign has a DSP turnover rate of 27% listed for 22. And this is for Illinois, statewide. I think 56 agencies responded to that survey. But I'm still waiting for the anchor, which is a national, and the core indicators project to give us the newer numbers. Turnover majority is in the residential program. Actually, I was surprised that PH residential has a higher turnover than residential.
Raj,
on
there's
PD
a hand raised.
sorry?
Jean, do you have a question?
I do have a question. I was wondering what kind of pay rate you have for the DSPs, and is that an important factor of the
Yeah.
keeping people
Yeah,
on?
I'm coming to that. It's in a couple of slides later. So what do we do for recruitment? The number one thing is, if you look at the third bullet, 90% of hiring is occurring from Indeed. Now, we actually utilize a professional agency to post it in the right way. They are called Furman. And the interesting thing was, till about September or October of last year, the number one tension that was creating was we are not getting applicants despite the fact that we are advertising it so much. But things have changed since last November. Now we are getting applicants. Just on the DSP side, in the last 1 month, we have received almost 50 applicants. Now, are they all valid? Do they meet all the criteria? That is a different issue, but at least we are getting applicants. We also post on our website. We post on the Illinois Department of Employment Security, all the educational institution that is primarily on the clinical professional side, chambers of commerce, mental health boards. But again, I mean, we do spend a lot of time in different areas, but the number one is Indeed. The next page, beside that, we also conduct monthly job fairs, both in the northern part as well as the southern part of the county, Kane County. We attend the local colleges and universities and participate in community events. One of the things that we have done, it went down a little bit during the COVID time, is expanding our internship program. Because out of the 50 or so interns that we have at AID, approximately 10% eventually become also employees of AID. So that has really helped. We offer a hiring bonus. This is $1,000. We have continued that during COVID. We continued that after. I think it's worthwhile because some competing for-profits offer $5,000, $10,000. Now, we can't afford that much, but we do offer a $1,000 hiring bonus. Person has to be employed for at least 6 months. We also offer an employee referral bonus, which is a total of $400, $100, I think, after 1 month, and then $300 after 6 months. And then we offer competitive wage and benefits. And that's the thing that I'm going to mention in I think 1 or 2 slides. This is a comparison of number of people who are hired and number of people who separated from AID, both voluntary and involuntary. It's a 13-month report because I wanted to include the past month, July. So if you see the summary at the top, we had a total of 183 hires, of which 126 left, not those same people, but it could be different. 126 left AID. So there is a positive of approximately little less than 60. But we have added new positions also at AID. But that 146 openings that I mentioned just about little less than a year back has come down now to 93. It actually ranges between 90 to 100. So if I take it today, it may be 100.
One of the things I wanted to point out, if you look at some of these months, you know, in August of last year, you know, we hired 15 people, but 15 people left. So you didn't go up any, right? You know, some months we had more people, like in December, we had 10 people leave and 8 people hired. So we didn't even, you know, we lost ground there. But then, you know, things are looking a bit better at the beginning of since about April, right? In terms of being able to hire more people than left.
Okay, so from a wage perspective, and I always mention this in presentations, even at the state level or with other agencies, from 2000 to 2019, agencies like us hardly got any rate changes from the state. I think the last one was sometime in 2009 or so. But during COVID, there was support for what we did. And AID did a number of things during COVID, have it down. But just last year, in 2022, there was a 10% wage increase to all staff at AID. The correct date actually was June 29th of 2022. And that was probably one of the biggest increase that we were able to give at AID in its last 62 years of service. We also did a second retention bonus, and that was a support that we received from Inc. From the ARPA funds for Kane County, but we decided to do it all across all the counties. Then in April of 2023, AID was able to do a $1 per hour wage increase for all staff again. And actually, before I go into this, Laurie and I both were in the Oversight Rate Methodology Committee at the state level. I was actually also chairing the medical subcommittee, nursing medical subcommittee. And few of the things that were approved started getting implemented through the agencies. So that is, Laurie just went off a little ahead. So some of the things that we were able to do in April are kind of based on that too, that $1 increase. Then we changed the system in which we wanted to reimburse employees. The biggest area of difficulty is in the evening and weekend shift. So we added $2 wage differential during that time. We used to have a different type of a differential. We let the employees have it so that we don't lose more employees. So this was an addition. And a $1 wage differential for certain programs where there are more challenges and more difficulty to have staffing. This includes in the day program Keeler, and in the residential program, I'm not sure exactly, but at least 15 to 16 locations. We also have adjustments for differentials based on education of staff, certification bilingual. In July 23, see what happens is when you change the frontline wage, it brings up the very closer to the supervisor rate. So we had to take care of that effect and do that $1 also for management staff. One of the things at the oversight committee that was decided was, and this is my big thing, and I'm going to actually mention it in this group. When I first started chairing in 2019, that committee, I was shocked that the state reimbursed agencies like us $19.11 for an RN. AID is already paying 28 that time. Some agencies were paying 30. And the hospital system were paid 35 to 40. So my first sentence in that committee was, we are competing with the hospital system. If you're going to pay us $19.11, we can't compete with 40, 45. And today, actually, this whole thing with traveling nurse, which is paying 50, 55, 60, we can't compete. But at least give us the rates, what Bureau of Labor Statistics says. So we were able to now not fully get reimbursed, but we are heading in that direction from the state. During COVID, we also did a COVID bonus. We did the retention bonus. We did 3 or 4 PTO buyouts. One of the potential things that we are thinking in January is CMS still has to approve it, but there is a plan for a $1.25 per hour, sorry, $1.25 increase per hour for, again, the frontline wage. And then the other part is based on flexibility. So we are hoping that CMS approves it. And Laurie, I think you wanted to say something? Oh.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is just like in the past a little bit over a year, but we probably gave 3 or 4 increases before that, all throughout COVID, because the state, well, we do a lot of advocacy, as do all of you, as do many people across the state, in order to get increased rates. And so every time that we have gotten an increased rate, we have increased our entire staff's salary, because we understand that what we provide is not a widget. We're not making something that we can increase the cost of, but we are providing service to people, and without staff, we don't have a business, right? So we cannot do the support. So we have always passed on our increases, and we always give increases to our entire staff. We do not separate it out, because you cannot compress those wages. You can't just give raises to DSPs and not give them to nursing and not give them to Qs and not give them to behavioral health folks that are required to have a much higher level of education, right, in order to do the work that we do. So AID has always passed on those money amounts. For every dollar increase that we give, it costs $1.5 million in our budget. And that's, you know, at the set amount of staff that we have right now. So every time we also increase the number of staff that we have, that costs even more across the board. So, you know, we don't, there's no way to raise, you know, that much money every year in order to, you know, add even more money to people's salaries, right? So then we work on other benefits and other things and continue to advocate with the state for example, DSP rates to be at 150% of minimum wage so that they're indexed and that they'll rise automatically. And that's what we'll be working towards this next spring session as we continue to move forward.
And just to
Lori,
add to
two, if I can jump in for a minute, maybe two statistics in particular would be important. One is, how does our average DSP wage compare to our peer organizations like
Yes.
Clearbrook or Ray Graham? And second, how much above our state reimbursement is our average DSP rate? I think
Yeah.
those are two sort of really useful numbers for
Yeah.
parents to have.
And we have actually calculated our mean and the minimum and maximum. However, the reports that we completed in 2023 to obtain what is the average in the state, we have not received as yet. But our mean, and this is without the extra differentials that people get for $2 and $1, is 18.62. However, the one thing I wanted to add to what Lori said was the state has given an additional increase for DSP in Kane County, but they have not given in Kendall. But we decided, you know what? I mean, we are hiring people as DSP in our entire, both the counties. So we are going to give the same increase. So if we add $2 and the $1, some of the staff are receiving $21, whereas the state is saying in Kendall give $17.55, in Kane give $19.55. And in addition to that, the highest, because we do have, I think, about 30 to 35% of our staff long-term. So the highest is at 25.26. So there is a range based on the differential and what extra they could get based on the hours that they work.
And then when you look at also the wage reimbursement that we receive from the state, we receive nothing for any overtime hours. Yep. So I see Julie mouthing it down there. And we are spending like $100,000 to $150,000 every pay period in overtime that we don't get reimbursed for. And that's a workforce issue, right? We have to have people there. People get paid time and a half for overtime, as they should, because they're working many, many hours. Those people that are nice enough to respond and fill a vacancy when either someone's sick, on vacation, having a baby, you know, moving to a new job, whatever it is. And so those costs, you know, have to be paid for by the fundraising and other donations that we are able to get as well, right? There were times when before I got here and right when I first got here that we, you know, like we really combed over that overtime report with a fine-tooth comb, right? And really like got on people for allowing overtime to happen. And we just can't do that because, again, safety and security are going to always be the top most important thing. And you've got to have people there with folks in order to ensure just the minimum level of food, hygiene, basic support and oversight, right? For the people that we serve. And Raj, did you, before, when we have looked at comparisons, I know we don't have 2023 numbers, but before, when we've looked at comparisons, we've been equal or above all of the people around the state of Illinois in terms of what we pay, right?
For most positions, the one area that we are kind of equal, a little bit short, was the licensed LCPC, LCSW, and the RN in certain areas. But for the DSP and the QIDP and the managerial positions, we tried to be in the 75th percentile.
I think, as a parent who sits on the board and on the HR committee that Raj and Lori are members of, I have really been reassured over the years that as much as I too, as a parent, am frustrated by the turnover and short staffing at my son's programs, that AID is ahead of our peer organizations. You're not going to find another organization that pays its DSPs as well, and that we're well ahead of where our state reimbursement is coming from. So speaking as a parent, that has been helpful to me in my moments of frustration.
Besides the wage, the other area that we have tried to be very competitive, especially from a retention standpoint, is on the employee benefit side. So health insurance, dental, short-term, long-term disability, life insurance, retirement plan. One of the changes that we did last year, again, from a retention standpoint, was to increase the employer portion to 3.5% instead of 3% of the employee wage. Some of these, most of the, actually, I give 100% credit to Lori for the paid time off. I mean, we didn't have any days off of any of the holidays. We had to use our own paid PTO days. But I wrote that 8 in the wrong area. Sorry, it is the next bullet. Paid holidays are 8. So now New Year's, Christmas, and 6 more, a total of 8 paid holidays. We have an extended illness bank that really came into benefiting an employee during COVID time. We do an employee assistance program, tuition reimbursement, employee referral bonus, again, to increase our recruitment. Employee recognition and incentive, this is one other area that we want to tweak more. Recently, I think in the last 6 to 8 months, we have expanded the cell phone reimbursement, not only to managerial staff, but also to all staff at AID if they used a Zoom application and improve walk through the communication that takes place from different parts of the agency. Oh, is this okay? Then other things that we have done, just a year, 8-9 months back, we added a second recruiter position because 90+ openings does not sound good, especially if I am a small department with 6 staff and 1 staff position is missing. So it hurts. Even though we stand out better than other agencies, it still hurts within my program as the program manager. So we've added a second recruiter, but just like other positions, we have struggled to keep the recruiter position. So we had both of them filled, then one left, then the other left. Now we have a new recruiter, and we are hoping to hire the second recruiter within the next couple of weeks. One of the other things that we are trying to restart, before COVID, we used to have a fixed day of the week where HR would schedule the interviews and the manager and directors would come and interview and make the decision, so that expedites the hiring process. We are planning to have more discussions and restart that. There is an initiative right now to develop a DSP credentialing for high school students. We are trying to update the employee orientation. Again, some of these lingering things are because of the disruption, because of last 3 years of COVID. Because we have, agency has gone just in the last 4 years, I would say, from a $35 million to a $50 million organization. So with more managers and leaders, there are some leaders and managers who are new. So we want to start a leadership development curriculum. Not only that for the existing management, but also to see interest from staff who are not in management position for the future. One of the things that we have to take seriously, and we are accredited through CARF also, is succession planning. I've seen agencies in which a single person leaves, and if nobody else knows what needs to be done, there's a big issue that they face. So trying to get the future leaders training also in place. We do satisfaction survey, staff, client, stakeholders, and any input that we receive from improvement, we try to put that in place. And of course, I mentioned about the internship program. Laurie also mentioned to briefly mention the performance management system, which we changed actually just 3-4 months back. We always have these expectation of regular meetings with employees. Managers need to meet with their employees on a regular basis, have a staff meeting. Then from a formalized base, do a 60-day evaluation of a new hire. And then it's mandated to do an annual evaluation of all the staff that report to that management team. The main thing that we changed this year is we always had a self-assessment and a standard performance measures, but we changed it from a meet, not meet to a 5-point scale so that it can be targeted for what are some new goals and objectives that are measurable that can be measured for the next cycle. A review of job description also takes place on an annual basis. We are providing management training on best practices on supervision, several other trainings on leadership, legal issues. We utilize a specialized HR attorney to provide that training on good documentations, conduction of performance appraisal, and last one I mentioned, we are in the developing phase and implementation of a management curriculum.
So thanks, Raj. Just wanted y'all to get understanding of whose responsibility it is to hire and all the things that we continue to do to try to get more people in the doors. We are experiencing many of the things that everyone is across the area, the state, the United States, in terms of we may have 50 applicants and we could call them all today, and 25 of them won't answer the phone. Then we set up 25 interviews and 10 of them show up to the interview, and then you offer a job and 5 of them will respond to that offer, and then they come to the first day of orientation, and 3 people show up out of that 50 that you originally started with to go through orientation. Hopefully 1 makes it all the way through the orientation and shows up at the first day on the job at a site, right? Even though we are very glad that we are getting more applicants, because last year around Christmas time, we were literally getting no applications whatsoever. So it's good to that people are looking right for jobs and that they're putting in applications at AID. We still have lots of ghosting going on, lots of people that already have a job offer once they're putting out multiple applications, and somebody else is faster than us, or they started a process somewhere else while they were still putting in applications, because they weren't sure what they were going to do. So we have been trained to do everything that we possibly can and more to get people in the door, and I just want to assure you that it is not I don't believe that it is any. I know there was some suggestion that perhaps we let managers go who are not hiring enough people, or when people are leaving, and we do exit interviews with everyone that will talk to us that is leaving positions voluntarily at AID about why they are leaving. And if anyone says that it is because of a supervisor, we then give that information to the supervisor's supervisor, and those people work on improving access, and supporting that person in learning more. And then sometimes, I mean, you all of us have worked at jobs where we didn't like our supervisor, and it wasn't necessarily because they were a bad person. It just wasn't a mesh, right? And again, I will reiterate my point early on in that hour and a half ago that DSPs have a really challenging job, and they get caught in the middle, right? And they are oftentimes contacted by parents who are not happy with them being moved to a different location, or not being able to be the second person on at a site because another site has no person on that they've called in, etc. And that DSP can't do anything about that, because they need to do what is best for the entire organization based on their supervisor's requirements, right? And so that makes it very challenging on that person to then talk to a parent or a family member and not be able to push, like they don't, like, how are they going to push back on you all, right? They're saying, so oftentimes they can then try to divert, right, from themselves and say, well, my supervisor, is making me do this, and I don't like them, and I don't agree with them, whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that that is actually the case. We have had some things that we have, some situations that we have worked through with bringing, everyone to the table and talking through things, and come to find out that the person didn't know how to respond to a family member, and so kind of again diverted or blamed their feelings or why they weren't doing something on their supervisor, right? And the supervisor has broad shoulders and can take that, but I want to assure you that we are trying to provide quality service to the best of our ability, based on all the challenges within the workforce, and how we are able to get people there. But again, as Stephanie kept saying earlier, safety and security are the first thing. So if there is something extra that is happening, at a group home based on like having 2 staff on site, and then there is a place where someone called in, I mean, what are we going to do? Leave those people alone? No, we can't do that, right? That is not our responsibility. Is to the safety and security of all the people that we support, and so we're going to have to move those people. The reality is, and I'm just going to say this real quick, and then we're going to wrap up and figure out when we want to talk again, because we obviously have not had much time to have any conversation. But the reality of the way the service system works, right, in Illinois, is that it's a shared service system, right? Everyone that lives together, and this gets to roommates, right? Question as well, is that if we have a empty bed, we are losing money, because it takes all of the people that SILA is set up for. So let's say it's a 4-person SILA or a 5-person SILA. It takes 5 people for us to run that SILA, and that includes paying for all of the food and the electricity and all of the concrete pieces, right? The physical structures, as well as all the staff that are there in order to provide the support. So if one person is gone, we're losing money. And many of our SILAs, are set up to lose money, period. Like if you looked at each individual SILA budget, there are houses that always deficit. Then there are, hopefully a handful that don't deficit. And so hopefully you can even out. But the reality is, if we were only a DD service provider, we would probably be going out of business or shutting down homes right now, because our behavioral health services, our crisis services, and the other ways that we are able to bring money into the organization allow us not to lose our shirt on IDD services. Even with the rate increases that we have had, we're still in limbo waiting for the determination on hours, because that hasn't been decided yet. So there are all kinds of balls in the air and plates spinning at all times. And think about how long we've been doing that since, like it was always hard, right? And we always had, as Raj showed, we always had a workforce issue, quote unquote. But like, we for real have a workforce issue now. Everything costs more. People can't afford to stay in jobs. We can't pay any more than everything that we're getting, that we're passing along, right? We're paying all this overtime. Again, none of this is excuses, but it's all reality. So then we all need to understand that, so that as we look at our future discussions, we can be aware and try to work together, because along with all of this, we got a lot of really cool stuff kind of bubbling and happening, and lots of opportunity, and then we also I think have to figure out, and we've very much been pushing on the state level, how do we modernize the system, right? Because the system itself isn't the best way, and the way that most people want to get supported and live in their communities of choice, right? Not many people who are 30 plus years old have 4 or 5 roommates, right, that are not their family. So we keep pushing towards that as well. We always are open to conversations. I think we always have shown that we are ongoing, and that we're always open to continued discussion. So I'm not going to open it up for discussion now, because it's 5:34. But I will remind you that next Thursday is our Family Council picnic at 6 p.m. here at Aurora. There will be food, so come. There will be opportunity. All executive level staff will be there, including the associate vice presidents, as well as the vice presidents and myself. Please make sure that you register, just so that we get enough food, because food will be delivered from Rulin's, and it'll be your basic picnic stuff: hamburgers, hot dogs, baked beans, potato salad, desserts, all that kind of stuff. So lemonade, tea, the whole 9 yards, right? With name tags. Yes, we'll all try to have our name tags on. And we'll buy some name tags for the attendees as well, because I think last time we did forget that, Susan. Thanks for reminding me. Last time we had a social hour, we forgot. So we will, commit to having some more discussion, right, during that, and hope that you can come. And then maybe you guys can circle back and decide if you want, another meeting like this, in order to have some further conversation, or ask more questions, and we can get that set up as well.
That sounds really good, Lori. I really appreciate you and your team making time to talk to us. And, last week, Stephanie and I had an interesting set of email exchanges, sort of beginning with, some frustrations that I had about some things going down at my son's home, and then Stephanie providing a context. And I emailed her toward the end of our back and forth, and I said, it's like we're both victims caught in a system. I said, I can't get the services I really want for my kid, and you can't really deliver the services services that you really want to give to my kid. And Stephanie emailed back and said, that's exactly right. And I thought that was a really good bridge building, because I think so often it's easy for our frustrations as parents to sort of lead to an adversarial relationship. And so to realize, hey, you know, we're all frustrated at times, you know, whether we're on the, delivery end of services or the recipient end of services. So Lori and Courtney and Stephanie and Raj, thank you so much for your time. Parents, you know how to get in touch with me. And Lori, I would love to do something like this again. So we will be in touch.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.